And it's not just a corporate debt load, which is what you were referencing earlier, Steve. Of course, it's also the sovereign debt in this country. Some of the calculations out there suggest that Turkey, in order to service its short-term debt obligations, needs about 180 billion US dollars to make that happen. Right now, because they've not set a huge amount aside for their foreign currency reserves, they've apparently got about half that amount. So that's going to be a real challenge on the sovereign side. In terms of that meeting between John Bolton and the Turkish ambassador in Washington, D.C., this is, of course, one of the outstanding issues. This, of course, is what caused President Trump to announce those higher tariffs on steel and aluminium on Friday. In terms of steel, it is Turkey's fourth largest export product. The U.S. is its largest export market. So increasing those tariffs to 50% will have a significant impact on the industry here, and politically makes it very difficult for Mr. Erdogan to back down in terms of his own rhetoric. And we saw that yesterday. He was speaking to Turkish ambassadors in Ankara and very, very clearly airing his grievances against the United States. Take a listen.
On the one hand, you're a strategic partner. On the other, you shoot yourself in the foot. On the one hand, you're a strategic partner with us in Afghanistan when everybody else was leaving. You're a strategic partner with us in Somalia. You're a strategic partner in NATO. And on the other hand, you stab your ally in the back. Is this acceptable?
So in that speech, he was talking about the United States as a global bully, but he also referenced, as you did earlier, Steve, economic terrorists that he says and his government says are responsible for talking down the lira. In fact, the Interior Ministry here announced yesterday in a statement that it would be investigating more than 340 social media accounts accused of talking down the currency. They're really going after any internal dissent as well as this foreign pressure in terms of rhetoric, at least, when it comes to impact on the currency. But as you've mentioned, a lot of significant issues underlying here in terms of economic problems. Some of those will take a lot longer to resolve.
In terms of, again, the grassroots, and we spoke about this yesterday, the president is very, very strong at getting out his grassroots supports onto the streets of the major cities of the country as well. Have you seen any indications of that, any growing support or indeed unrest on the streets of Istanbul and seen it perhaps on the local news in other parts of the country?
I mean, there's a huge amount of weariness in the conversations that I've had over the last 24 hours amongst Turks about these policies. These are not the first times they're hearing these kinds of statements from their president. It's certainly not the first time they're seeing this kind of crackdown on internal dissent. A lot of that stems from the 2016 failed coup attempt, of course, where we saw that stifling of public criticism of the president. We saw Mr. Erdogan strengthen his grip on state institutions. So there is a degree of cynicism in the conversations I've had with people here about the way that this is heading. And in terms of US involvement, again, the conversations I've had, people saying they just don't see this as being down to US meddling. They don't see this as down to anything other than presidential and government decisions on economic planning.
Hey everybody, it's Hadley Gamble from our new CNBC Middle East Bureau in Abu Dhabi. Thanks for stopping by. Now to watch more, you can try one of the videos that just popped up on your screen. And don't forget to subscribe.